Hey guys, today we're going to learn how to create a very simple house in SketchUp. This is basically our first house together, and we're going to start by using this square tool right over here, the usual one. Up till now you've probably been clicking and dragging on the ground and just letting it go whenever and pulling it up, and then if it doesn't look big enough, you know that you could change all the dimensions by just pushing and pulling, and of course orbiting around and pushing and pulling from the back. So you know that you could push and pull from every size. So theoretically, this could be the start of a house. It looks relatively small, obviously, but big enough. It's also important to mention that I'm going directly to my guy. You could see that I started a new project because it's empty, but you don't have to do that. You do have to start at your person because we're going to be using him for scale. If I click a new tool for you guys, it's called the measuring tool, I can use that to click one corner of this what could be a house, and I can measure it, and you can see that it's 22 feet 6 1/16 inch. If you look down here, it's changing now because I just moved the measurement, but if I click that, you can see right here it tells you the length of the house, and you can see that it's quite random. Not only is it 22 feet 6 inches, but it's 1/16 of an inch. So I know that obviously the person who made this, and who was me, just randomly made a square. We're going to do things a little bit differently when we're making houses, and as opposed to when we made sculptures. We're going to actually make measured houses. So for example, let's say I click once and release. Before I pull out my mouse, when I do that, it makes a clear extend, like right now I'm moving my mouse without my finger on the button, and it's making a clear extendable area. And by extendable, I mean if I move the mouse, it extends. It is not filled in gray. Now, if you look down where it says dimensions, you're going to see that when I type in a number, like 100 feet, comma, 100 feet, which is basically shown to SketchUp by the number 100, and then the apostrophe means feet, the comma means by, and then the number 100 again, with the apostrophe, which means feet. The reason that we're putting in all that punctuation is basically so that SketchUp knows what we're talking about. It doesn't know whether we want to measure in inches or feet or miles or cats or dogs or umbrellas. So this way, it'll do exactly the way we want. So we click once, let it open so that it's clear, and then release the mouse entirely. And type in our dimensions. I'm going to add completely new dimensions this time and make it 50 foot by 75 feet, and you can see how I did it in the bottom corner. Now before I touch the mouse again, I'm going to press return, and that's going to lock that dimension into position. So this is a fairly decent sized house for this person. It definitely could have many rooms. I would say that I'm going to orbit a little bit so you can see that this is not a square, it's a rectangular house. I would say that you want to have some variations in size, but you don't want to go crazy large and you don't want to go crazy small. So my next step is to push-pull this into 3D. Now the height that you want it to be is determined by how many floors you want the house to be. Each floor is about 10 feet. So I just pulled it up a tiny bit. Now I'm going to type in 20 feet to mean that it's 2 floors high. Press return, and he now has a 2-floor house. Now I just want to show you with the measuring tool what we've done here. To prove that I did it with real dimensions, you can see that if I measure that, it shows 50 in both the bottom corner and next to the measuring tool. If I do it from the other corner, you can see that it measures 75, and if I measure up, it measures 20 feet. So I know all my measurements were done correctly, which is what I'm going to be checking for. This is the difference between a sculpture and something real, like a house that's going to have real dimensions. All right, so now I'm going to use my pencil or drawing or line tool, and I'm going to let it drag along this until I find that light blue kind of midpoint. This is telling me that this is the midpoint of this line. That's why it's blue. So I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to go find the same blue point on the other side, so I know that this is a straight and even line. When I see that I'm on the midpoint, I click it. It's very important that that is a straight line, by the way. If you do something like this, it won't work. So make sure that you're doing it on the midpoints right there. All right. And then we're going to go to our move tool, not our push-pull tool this time, but our move tool, to move the roof up. And this could take a little practice because we want it to be on the blue axis. That means that it's going up. If I were to go like this, I'm going to let go to show you what this looks like. it's going to make our house look weird. But if it's on the blue axis, that basically means it's going straight up. So that's the correct way to make sure it's even. Now, where you want to put it is up to you. If it was like a church, it might be that high. If it was like a common house, it would probably be more like this. This part you don't have to measure. I only wanted you to get a little bit of measuring under your belt. So we're only going to measure the bottoms and height of the houses. All right, so that's our first complete house. It doesn't have any details yet, but it is a complete house. So I'm going to show you one more on the side. I'm going to do this one a little bit quicker because hopefully you're following along. I'm going to leave a little space for maybe a car or a fence or something if they want to put it in. And when I make my next house, I'm going to drag it out and make this one 50 feet by 50 feet. Because again, I want to have a little variation. Okay? Now I can see that that is a 50-foot area. And I'm going to bring this up, and this is going to be a 3-story house because it's a little bit smaller. So 30 apostrophe enter. It goes up 30 feet. And again, I'm going to take the pencil tool, but this time I'm actually going to do it a little bit differently. Instead of searching the midpoints, I want to make a different kind of roof. So I'm going to click the corners, and I'm going to click corner to corner opposing sides. So there you go. Now when I use the move, I'm going to orbit so you can see what's happening. Now when I use the move tool to do the exact same thing and pull it up into 3D and hopefully find that blue axis, I'm going to let go, and you can see that it has like a pyramid roof. So those are 2 different types of roofs that you can start with. And that's it for this tutorial. Stay tuned for the next tutorial, which will show you how to add some details to these pretty boring houses.